Hello, my name's Sarah and I'm a student library assistant at the FIMS Graduate Library. And today I'm going to be talking about a really useful citation management tool called Zotero. In this video, I'll go over the benefits of using citation management tools, how to install Zotero and the browser extension, how to create and organize your own citation library, and how to use Zotero to easily generate citations and reference lists within your documents. So if you already know that you want to use Zotero and you'd just like some tips about how to use its different features, feel free to skip ahead. So why use a citation management tool? From my own experience using them, I can say that they really do make students and researchers' lives much easier and more organized. Broadly speaking, the two things that they are great for is organizing your research and formatting your in-text citations and reference lists. As an organizational tool, they allow you to create customized collections of research materials with lots of options for how you can manage these collections, including adding tags and color coding them or attaching notes to them. I think for many of us, the research process is often serendipitous. You come across things related to current and future projects in your online journeys, and although you're not always sure how you'll use them, it's nice to be able to tuck them away for future reference. Also, if you find it tedious to format citations and difficult to remember different citation formats, these tools will be very helpful to you. As I'll demonstrate later in the video, Zotero will generate in-text citations and reference entries in the format of your choice. So, for example, if you're submitting a paper to a journal that wants MLA citations and your citations are in APA, you don't need to make all the changes yourself. There's a few different reasons that we recommend Zotero as a citation management tool. First, it's completely free to use unless you need more than 300 megabytes of storage. It's also neat because it's an open source tool that was created at the Center for History and New Media at George Mason University. There are two main ways that it can be used: as a Firefox extension, or you can use the standalone version with a connector for your web browser, which I'll talk about in a moment. Zotero is compatible with Mac, Windows, and Linux. It allows you to create private or public groups for collaborative work and citation sharing. And most importantly, it's very easy to use and has straightforward documentation available on its website, zotero.org, that you can refer to if you do run into any problems. If you're wondering if there are other citation management tools out there, the answer is yes. There are lots of options and you're welcome to use whichever one works best for you. Some are free, some aren't, and there are lots of comparison charts online that you can refer to if there are specific things that you're looking for in one of these tools. Before we look at some of the things you can do with Zotero, I'll quickly cover the basics on how to install Zotero and the browser extension and how to register for a free Zotero account. To install Zotero, you will need to go to the Zotero website at zotero.org and download both the Zotero software for your computer and most likely the Zotero browser extension. So here I am on the main Zotero website, and I'll just click on this red download button. And here on the left, you can see this is a standalone version of Zotero for Windows to download, or you can also get it for Mac or Linux. So you would download that first. And then on the right, we have the Zotero connector for your browser. And this is a Chrome connector, but there's other connectors for other browsers as well down here. And while it's possible to build your library manually without the extension, it's this extension that makes it so easy to add items to your library as you browse library catalogs, databases, and websites. So if you're comfortable installing it on your device, it will make collection building much easier for you. And once you install this browser extension, it will appear up here in the top right of your screen, and it actually changes its appearance depending on what you're looking at. From here, you can also register for a Zotero account by clicking on Register in the top right corner of the screen, which brings you to this registration page. You don't have to have an account to use Zotero, but I would recommend getting one because it allows you to sync your account to other devices and access your library anywhere.
Having an account will also allow you to use Zotero collaboratively and share libraries with groups. Creating your library. How to organize, manage, and add items to your Zotero library. Here I am within Zotero, and you can see that my screen is divided into 3 panels. My library with my different collections are organized on the left, and when I click on one of these collections, or sub-collections, the items within that collection or sub-collection appear in the middle panel. And if I click on one of these items, the information about it or its metadata appears in the right panel. I find that Zotero makes it really easy to organize a large amount of material by giving you a lot of different organizational options. If we take a closer look at the collections within my library, you can see that they relate to different courses I'm taking, areas of professional development that I like to collect materials on, and different topics within my field that I'm interested in. But how you decide to organize this is up to you, and it's easy to change the format and add collections and sub-collections as your work and interests evolve. The little arrow beside some of my collections indicates that I've created sub-collections within this collection, and to open these, I just click on the arrow. There we go, so that closed it, and then that opens it. And to create more sub-collections, I would just right-click on the collection, like that, and press New Sub-Collection. And to create new, whole new collections or new libraries, I would just click on these icons at the top here. Once you've started setting up your library, you're ready to begin adding items to it. As I mentioned, you can do this manually, but it's much easier to let Zotero do it for you with the browser extension. So here you can see that I've done a search in the Library Literature and Information Science full-text database to find sources on wayfinding and signage in libraries. After looking at the results on the first page, I've decided that there's a few different items that I'd like to send to my Zotero library. So to do this, I'll click on the Zotero icon in the top right corner of my screen, which in this case looks like a file folder since there's a number of different items on the page. And I'll select which items I'd like to send to Zotero. In this case, I'm going to select all of them, and I'll press OK. And then it's asking me which collection I'd like to send it in, to save it in. And I'm going to choose the User Experience collection. And I want to choose the specific sub-collection as well, Wayfinding. And I'll press Done. And that should be sent there. And on the second page of results, I think there was only one item that I wanted to save, this first item. So I'll click on that and have a look at it again. And to save it, I'm just going to, again, click on the Zotero icon, which this time looks like an article because it's a single item. And the process is, again, I'm sending it to my wayfinding sub-collection, and I'll press Done. And all of those items should be in Zotero now. And we'll go into my Zotero account to see. And here's the wayfinding sub-collection. And yes, all of those items are there. And these items with arrows beside them indicate that there's also PDFs attached to them. So that's a handy thing too. Zotero will save those so that you can easily access them as well. Before we look at generating citations, I wanted to spend a moment showing you how you can create public or private groups in Zotero for collaborative work and citation sharing. Remember, before you use this feature of Zotero, you'll need to register for a free account. There are a couple of different ways to create new groups in Zotero. One way is to click on the New Library icon in the top left corner of your screen within Zotero, and then New Group. This brings you to the web version of Zotero, and here you can name your new group, and choose whether you want it to be in public group or a private group. Then there's further settings you can select for your group. And you can also send invitations to join your group by clicking on Member Settings and send more invitations. Once you've created a group in Zotero, you can start adding items to it in the same way that you would to your personal Zotero library. So here I have a web article that I'd like to add to my Zotero group. So I'll go up to the Zotero icon in the top right corner of my screen and make sure that I've selected the right group. And this will be sent to my Zotero group, and all of the members in it will have access to it now. And here I am back in Zotero, and you can see my group libraries under my personal Zotero library. So as you can see, using groups in Zotero is a really great way of sharing resources and citations. And while we're here, I also wanted to go over the options for adjusting or adding information to any of the items in your libraries and creating relationships between them. So I'll pull up one of my collections and look at an item. As I mentioned before, this first info tab on the right of my screen shows all of the metadata about an item. And this is where I could manually correct any errors in this metadata. And this is really something to keep an eye on because it's not uncommon for there to be errors or data missing. And then with the Notes tab, I have the option of adding what's called a child's note directly to an item in my collection. Or I can also go up here and create a standalone note, and this type of note would be attached to an entire collection rather than a specific item. I can also add tags to an item. Here I've already created a UX tag for this item. I could add another one. And then it appears in the bottom left of my screen, and I could also color code this tag if I wanted. And that provides me with another way of searching through my library, in addition to being able to search with the search bar at the top of the screen. And then finally, there's this related tab, which gives me the option of identifying relationships between particular materials in my library as well. Citing your work: how to create in-text citations and reference lists with Zotero's word processor extension. Using Zotero to create in-text citations and reference lists saves you the time of having to create these on your own, and it allows you to easily change between citation formats. This function in Zotero works with Microsoft Word, which is what I'll be using for my demonstration, as well as with LibreOffice and Google Docs. You don't need to download a Zotero plugin for your word processor, as it comes bundled with the Zotero software and should be automatically installed in Word, if that's what you're using. If it doesn't appear in the top band of Word, there are instructions for manually installing it within Zotero's documentation. I've opened a report now in Microsoft Word that needs some citations added to it. The Zotero tab in Microsoft Word appears at the top of my screen within the menu bar, and when I click on it, it gives me a few different options. I can add or edit citations and bibliographies, select my document preferences, or unlink citations. To get started, I'll select my document preferences. This brings up a list of different citation styles, including MLA, Chicago style, and APA style. For this document, I'll select APA style. And now I'm ready to start adding my in-text citations. To do this, I'll make sure that my cursor is where I want these citations to appear. And then I'll click on Add Citation. And this brings up a bar where I can search for the citations that I want. I'm just going to search by the author's name, but there's other ways to search as well. And I want 2 different citations. There we go. And these look correct, so I'll press enter. And there they are, generated directly into my document for me. I will note, though, that when I first did this, one of these citations wasn't correct. So I had to go back into my Zotero library and change the metadata for it. So just always keep an eye on the accuracy of these citations. So now that I have all of the in-text citations that I want in my document, I'm ready to generate my reference list, which is also very straightforward to do in Zotero. To do this, I again put my cursor where I want this list to appear, and then I click on Add Bibliography, and Zotero automatically generates entries for all of the citations that I've put into my document. And I would once again make sure that these are accurate. And once I'm happy with all of the formatting of the citations in my document, I would click on Unlink Citations to remove the field codes and to stop Zotero from making any further automatic updates within this document. Thanks for watching this introduction to Zotero. This video has covered all of the basics to get you started on using Zotero, and once you get set up, you can always start using some of the more advanced features. Remember, if you have any troubles installing or using Zotero, Zotero.org has instructions under its Documentation tab. Also, please feel free to email us any questions you have at fimslib@uwo.ca.